Okay, once again, Old Tommy Boy has another On This Day show for you guys, and it's another historic first in MLB history. I've been doing the show for over a year now, and I keep coming across autographs my dad has from baseball players who made history in one way or the other. And I really do need to simplify my playlist, make one for record breakers, and one for my bit on this day. I do have a playlist for Negro League players my dad has signatures from. I've found 9 so far, and I've done shows on 6 of those players. And for the record, they are Larry Doby, Lino Donoso, Joe Durham, Billy Harrell, Dave Hoskins, Willie Mays, Minnie Minoso, John Ritchie, and Kelly Searcy. Enough name dropping, because the name I'm dropping today did something that none of the aforementioned greats never did. I'm talking about Glenn Eugene Stevens, nickname Gene, outfielder, MLB debut 1952, and was in the big show for over a decade, signing with the Boston Red Sox before the start of the 1951 season, and was invited to their 1952 spring training camp and was on the opening day roster, making his MLB debut the following day, but would spend the next 8 years as Ted Williams' backup. Gene also played for the Orioles, the Kansas City A's, finishing his MLB career in 1964 with the Chicago White Sox. And when he was done playing ball in America, Gene flew to Japan in 1966 and played one season in their major league. He has many baseball cards and at least one card from each team he played for. Pop got his autograph at Red Sox 1959 spring training camp in Arizona, along with a dozen other Boston players. Gene Stevens was a consistently good hitter. He just didn't consistently get at-bats. Of course, what do you expect having the greatest hitter in the game in front of you, as well as Jackie Jensen and Jimmy Pearsall, which means you become a reserve and watch from the bench for years, never becoming a regular starter. Back in 2010, Gene said, "I knew I didn't have any weaknesses. I regret that I didn't get to play as a regular." From 1955 to 1959, he would average around 100 games per season, but just over 1.5 at-bats per game, usually coming in for Ted Williams either as a late inning replacement when Teddy Ballgame was hurt or was off fighting in the Korean War. This is how Gene got the nickname he didn't appreciate, Ted's Caddy. But Gene was a clutch hitter and could have been a starter on most teams, not just the Red Sox. But they say he had the tools to do it, and at a 1957 Boston Baseball Writers Banquet, Gene Stevens received a special award as the club's unsung hero. The 6'3", 185-pound Gene is from Arkansas and was born in a small town that had no store or post office called Hiwassee. His dad, Oroville, and his 4 brothers owned a sawmill, and whenever Gene had a game, they would shut the mill down early so the whole family could watch him play ball. He played American Legion ball and right out of high school was invited for a tryout by legendary Yankee scout Tom Greenwade, who recently signed Mickey Mantle and Elston Howard. When Tom Greenwade was with the Dodgers, he's the one who gave them the go-ahead to sign Jackie Robinson. So Gene and his parents hopped in the car and headed for Joplin, Missouri. Gene said, "When we got there, it was hotter than hell. I changed clothes in the back of our car. Tom Greenwade offered me $3,000, said I threw hard and had a pretty good arm. I had good speed and could hit, but said I never played against good competition in Arkansas." Gene and his family turned down the offer and signed with the Red Sox instead, who sent him to High Point, Thomasville to play for the High Toms, Class D, North Carolina State League. He was only 18 years old and put up an impressive stat line and made the All-Star team. So things were looking good. Gene said, "After about 3 weeks, I was hitting around 400 and was kind of peeved about Tom Greenwade's comment about me not playing against good competition." Gene proved him wrong, and after only 1 year in the minors playing Class D ball, he was called up to the majors. Not many players take that route to the majors. The Red Sox were so pleased with Gene that he began the 1952 season with the club, saying, "When Ted Williams went to Korea, they gave me his locker in spring training. They started writing things like, I had the potential to be the next Williams. I didn't know about that, but I knew I could play. That's all I wanted." And in his first at-bat in the majors, hits a solid pinch hit double. The rest of the season and the next, Gene would split time between the Red Sox and 2 of their affiliates. It was during the 1953 season that Gene would get his first big league round tripper off Yankees Johnny Sane at Yankee Stadium. This would be the season Gene put himself in the MLB record book. He spent all of 1954 in the Triple-A with Louisville Colonels, who won the American Association Championship and then the Junior World Series. It was the 1955 season that saw Gene stick in the big leagues for good. And even though the next 5 years would average 100 games a year when he appeared, made the best of his opportunities. He had a career-high 9 homers in 1958, and in July of 1959, the Red Sox would play the Yankees 6 days in a row to make up for a game that was rained out earlier in the season. Boston lost the first game in New York, then reeled off 5 straight victories over the Yankees. With the final game of the series at Boston's Fenway Park, Gene Stephens was put in the game to pinch run for Ted Williams with the bases loaded in the 6th inning of a close game. Gene would be thrown out at home plate, fielder's choice, but the Sox would go through the order, giving Gene a chance to hit. Again, with the bases loaded, and like he usually does, what clutch players do in the big moment, Gene hits a grand slam that blows the game open. The Red Sox go on to win and complete a 5-game sweep of the Yanks. Early in the 1960 season, Gene broke his wrist making a play on a fly ball. X-rays revealed nothing, but he was put in a cast and sent home, missing several weeks of ball. Gene said, "I finished the year and hit pretty well, thinking I finally had the job for next year," regarding to Ted Williams' retirement. Gene went on, "My wrist was still sore, and later on when they took another x-ray, there was a bone chip in there they overlooked, about the size of a pencil eraser." Gene played through the pain when he returned, but was traded in June to the Orioles for Willie Tasby. Gene said, "I sat on the bench behind Williams for 5 or 6 years, and then I got hurt and they traded me. No one really knew that I was hurt, and you never said you were hurt back in those days. You had to play, and they didn't pamper you. They traded me with a bone chip in my wrist. My career was essentially over." The following June, the Orioles traded him to the Kansas City A's, and that 62 season saw Gene riding the bench most of the year with a bum knee. The White Sox picked up Gene for the 1963 season, but his knee was still on the mend and was sent down to the minors for the first time in 8 years. He played most of the year with the Indianapolis Indians, helping them win the International League title, batting .305 with 17 homers. Back in the bigs with the White Sox for 1964, playing in 82 games, and as always, a clutch hitter whenever he got in the game, hitting .368 as a pinch hitter. That 1964 White Sox team lost the pennant to the Yankees by 1 game. Season over, Gene was released and spent parts of the next 2 seasons on 5 minor league AAA teams before heading over to play ball in the Japanese league with the Chunichi Dragons, and would be teammates with former Twins player Jay Ward. They played in the same league as the Yomiuri Giants and would have to face Sadahara O. So it's June 18th, 1953. Ted Williams is with the Marines fighting in the Korean War, which means it's one of those periods where Gene was a starter for the Red Sox, and as usual, makes the most of his opportunity. And on this day, Gene Stephens puts himself in the MLB record book as the first and only major leaguer in the 20th century to do what he did on this day. But first, we'll go back to the day prior on June 17th, 1953. The Detroit Tigers are at Fenway Park to take on the Red Sox for what would probably be the 2 worst back-to-back games in Tigers history. Boston beat Detroit 17-1, with the Red Sox getting 20 hits. How do you top that? You come back the next day and beat the visiting Tigers 23-3, getting 27 hits in the game, scoring 17 runs in the 7th inning alone. To this day, still the most in MLB history. The Red Sox sent 23 batters to the plate that inning and set another MLB team record with 14 hits in 1 inning. So the Detroit Tigers watched for 47 minutes as 3 of their pitchers were hammered into the mound. The man of the moment, Gene Stephens, was not only part of that Red Sox onslaught, but also put himself in the MLB record book all by himself when, on this day, 71 years ago, Gene Stephens got 3 hits in 1 inning. A double and 2 singles off 3 different Tigers pitchers. Since 1900 until now, only Gene and Johnny Damon in 2003 have accomplished this feat. The 2 Red Sox legends are next to each other in the MLB record book. What are the odds of somebody doing this again? Well, it was done only once last century, and we're already 25 years into this one. So not too many 18-year-olds go from playing 1 year of Class D ball straight to the majors. When talking about entering the big show in 1952, Gene said, I was one of the youngest ball players in the major leagues. I was 19 years old, and I probably shouldn't have even been in the major leagues at that time. Fast forward to the 1953 season, he just turned 20 years old, had only 21 MLB games under his belt, and only 53 big league at-bats. Call it luck or great timing at the plate on Gene's part, or a combination of the two. It doesn't really matter either way, because Gene Stephens made history on this day 71 years ago when he put himself in the MLB record book as the only major league ball player in the 20th century to get 3 hits in 1 inning. On this day.